On a packed international cruise ship, an arrogant passenger decides the rules don't apply to her. She spots a black woman in the best suite on the top deck, Suite 1A, and decides to steal it for herself. It's a power move she will regret for the rest of her life. She had no idea the woman she just publicly humiliated and underestimated had the power to chain the entire ship to the port. This isn't just a story about a rude passenger. It's about what happens when a quiet CEO decides to teach someone a lesson in respect by bringing a massive cruise line to a screeching halt. The air in the flagship terminal of the Port of Miami was thick with a familiar, anxious perfume. Stale coffee, industrial floor wax, and the faint, salty temps of the ocean. Dr. Jordan Banks, CEO of Banks Apex Logistics, barely noticed. She stood near the chaotic boarding area for Oceanic Pinnacle's Jewel of the Seas bound for London, her gaze fixed not on the disorganized line, but on the glowing screen of her phone. Marcus. "The offer is final," she said, her voice a low, smooth alto that cut through the surrounding din. "The 51% acquisition is non-negotiable. My team has audited their logistics and the inefficiencies are profound. They need us more than we need them. Hold the line. I'll be on board at the start of the 10-day voyage to sign." She clicked the phone off, her expression unreadable. At 42, Jordan Banks had built an empire from scratch, a logistics and private equity firm that specialized in turning struggling giants into lean, profitable machines. She was dressed for battle, though her armor was subtle. A bright blue tailored blazer by the row, simple black trousers, and flat polished leather loafers that spoke of a woman who valued comfort and power in equal measure. Her hair was styled in intricate professional locks pulled back into a severe, elegant bun. In her hand she held a simple leather satchel containing the hard copy prospectus for the Oceanic Pinnacle deal. A deal worth $9 billion. The embarkation staff member, flustered young man named Jason, called for suite and VIP boarding. The line immediately swelled, a jumble of expensive carry-ons and impatient sighs. "This is just typical." A sharp voice sliced through the air. A woman, perhaps in her late 50s, with voluminous blonde hair that seemed to defy gravity and a bright pink tracksuit, dripping with gold logos, shoved her way to the front. She threw her leopard print roller bag forward, nearly hitting an elderly man. "Karen Sterling," she announced to Jason, her voice loud enough for the entire terminal to hear. "Platinum Elite Founder Circle. This line is a disgrace. I've been waiting for 10 minutes. Jason stammered. "My apologies, Miss Sterling. Please go right ahead." Karen sniffed, snatched her passport back from him, and stomped down the gangway. Jordan watched her expression unchanging. She had seen 1,000 Karen Sterlings in her career, women who mistook privilege for importance and volume for authority. She was the last to board, handing her ticket to Jason. "Have a wonderful voyage." "Dr. Banks," Jason said, his professionalism returning now that the immediate threat of Karen was gone. "Thank you." "Jason, I intend to," Jordan replied. She stepped onto the ship, the crew greeting her with practiced smiles. She turned left into the exclusive suite deck corridor, a serene space of beige leather and polished wood veneers overlooking the ocean. Suite 1A was the coveted owner's suite, offering maximum privacy and a spacious balcony. She saw immediately that it was occupied. Karen Sterling was already installed, her pink tracksuit spread wide, her shoes kicked off, and her leopard print bag occupying the suite's entryway table. She was loudly FaceTiming someone, her bare feet propped up on the suite wall. And then another line, "I tell you, Richard, it's like they've never seen a platinum member before." Jordan paused, checking her cruise card again. No. She looked at Karen. She looked at the suite attendant, Linda, who was busy hanging another passenger's jacket, her back to the unfolding situation. Jordan stepped forward, her voice calm and polite. "Excuse me?" Karen ignored her, continuing her call. "Honestly, I should just buy this cruise line and fire everyone." "Excuse me," Jordan repeated, a fraction louder, but still perfectly level. Karen finally looked up, her eyes framed in heavy blue eyeshadow, scanning Jordan from head to toe. The look was not one of simple annoyance. It was a comprehensive, dismissive appraisal. She saw Jordan's simple, unadorned outfit, her dark skin, her locks, and her flat shoes. And she made an immediate, deeply flawed calculation. She held up one perfectly manicured finger as if silencing a servant. "I'm on a very important call, dear. Can you not see that?" Jordan did not move. "You are in my suite." Karen's painted eyebrows shot up. She finally ended her call, huffing with performative frustration. "I highly doubt that. This is 1A. I am 1A. I always stay in 1A. As do I," Jordan said, holding out her boarding pass, which clearly read Banks. "Dr. Suite 1, AGS 212 Miami-London. Karen glanced at it, a smirk playing on her lips. She didn't even bother to pull out her own. "Oh, honey, there must be a mistake. The computer must have glitched. This is my suite. I've been here for 5 minutes." She then delivered the line that would seal her fate, her voice dropping into a syrupy, condescending tone. "Are you sure you're on the right deck? The standard balcony staterooms are just downstairs. It's very comfortable, I'm told. Maybe your suite is 10A, not 1A. It's an easy mistake for some people to make." The implication hung in the air, thick and toxic as the port water outside. Jordan's eyes, dark and intelligent, did not blink. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't flush with anger. Instead, a profound, icy calm settled over her. She had not built an empire by reacting. She had built it by acting. "I am not mistaken," Jordan said, her voice dropping to a near whisper, yet carrying more weight than Karen's shout. "And I will not be moving. Please retrieve your belongings." The suite corridor, which had been buzzing with the quiet rustle of magazines and clinking glasses of pre-departure champagne, went silent. The other suite passengers, titans of industry and old money heirs, turned to watch. This was no longer a disagreement. It was a confrontation. The suite attendant, Linda, finally noticed the standoff. She was a woman in her late 40s with a brittle smile stretched thin by years of dealing with demanding passengers. She bustled over, her hands fluttering anxiously. "Is there a problem here, ladies?" she asked, her eyes darting between the two women. "Yes, there is a problem," Karen snapped, pointing a long acrylic nail at Jordan. "This woman is trying to take my suite. She's harassing me. I want her removed." Linda looked at Jordan, her smile tightening. The path of least resistance was clear. Placate the loud, aggressive passenger. "Ma'am," she said to Jordan, "could I please see your boarding pass?" Jordan presented it. Linda glanced at it, then looked at Karen. "And yours, Ms. Sterling?" "It's in my purse." Karen huffed as if retrieving it was a grave injustice. She dug through an oversized Louis Vuitton bag, finally pulling out her own pass and thrusting it at Linda. "St. 1, a Platinum Elite." Linda looked at one pass, then the other. Her face went pale. It was the dreaded duplication error. The embarkation agent, Jason, must have scanned both passes for the same suite without noticing. "Oh dear," Linda murmured. "It seems we have a little mix-up. The system has double-booked 1A. "It's no mix-up," Karen insisted. "I got here first. I'm settled. She needs to move. Find her another seat. Put her downstairs. I don't care. I am not moving." Linda turned to Jordan, her expression pleading. "Dr. Banks, I am so terribly sorry. This is a fault of the company. We do have another stateroom available. 1-B. It's a balcony room on the premium deck. We would, of course, offer you a voucher for the inconvenience." The insult was profound. Not just a different luxury suite, but a downgrade to a lower class. Jordan's gaze shifted from Karen to Linda, and her eyes were now as hard as obsidian. "You are offering me a downgrade." "Well, Miss Sterling is already settled," Linda stammered, intimidated by Karen's sheer volume. "It's just to get us on our way. We have to close the doors." "The solution," Jordan stated, her voice resonating with cold authority, "is not to downgrade the ticketed passenger. The solution is to check your own manifest. I booked this suite 6 months ago. I selected it personally. I am an Emerald Tier partner. Karen let out a laugh that sounded like a breaking seagull. Emerald tear. Oh, that's adorable. I'm Platinum Founder Circles, sweetie. That trumps whatever little card you got from your credit card. She then made her second and most critical mistake. She reached out and shoved Jordan's leather satchel, which Jordan had placed on the armrest of seat 1B. Get your bag off my friend's seat, she sneered. The cabin air temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Jordan's hand shot out, not to touch Karen, but to steady her bag. Inside that bag, besides the $9 billion acquisition file, was a prototype communications device her company was developing, worth more than Karen's entire outfit. Do not, Jordan said, her voice dangerously quiet. Touch my property again. The raw, unadulterated command in her voice made even Karen flinch. That's it. Karen shrieked, recovering. She threatened me. Linda, did you see that? She threatened me. I am unsafe. This person is a threat to this ship. Get her off this ship. This was the magic word. Threat. Linda's face, already pale, turned ashen. In a post-9/11 world, threat was a word that superseded all customer service in both aviation and maritime contexts. Ma'am, Linda said, her voice trembling, now directed solely at Jordan. I'm going to have to ask you to come with me to the gangway immediately. I will not, Jordan said, standing her ground. I am the offended party here. I am in my ticketed suite and I have been verbally abused and physically accosted by this passenger. Get your supervisor or get the captain. Simon? Linda yelled, panic rising in her voice. Simon, I need help. The head of guest services, Simon, a tall man with a pinched expression, arrived. Linda rapidly whispered her version of events. Double booking. This woman refusing to move. She threatened Ms. Sterling. Ms. Sterling is platinum. We're going to be delayed. Simon didn't even look at Jordan's boarding pass. He looked at his watch, at the irate and very important-looking Ms. Sterling, and at the problem standing in the corridor. He made the same calculation Linda did. Ma'am, Simon said to Jordan, adopting a tone of false, steely patience. We cannot resolve this here. You are delaying the departure of an international voyage. You must disembark now. This is unacceptable, Jordan said firmly. I am Dr. Jordan Banks, and I demand to speak to the captain. The captain is busy with pre-departure. You can speak to him or the police on the ground, Simon snapped. He gestured to the open ship door. You are now in violation of federal laws by refusing to obey a crew member's instructions. He picked up the internal phone. Terminal, this is Manager Simon. We have a non-compliant passenger in 1A. She is refusing to disembark. We require security assistance. Karen Sterling leaned back in the seat in Suite 1A, a smug, venomous smile spreading across her face. She pulled out her phone, angled it slightly, and hit record. This is what happens when you don't know your place, she whispered loud enough for Jordan to hear. Jordan looked at the smirking woman who had stolen her suite. She looked at the weak, cowardly crew who had chosen prejudice over procedure. She looked at the other silent passengers, then with a sigh that was not of defeat, but of profound disappointment. She nodded. Very well. She turned her back ramrod straight and walked from the suite deck corridor, her head held high. As she stepped off the ship and onto the gangway, she was met by two uniformed Port Authority police officers. The ship door hissed shut behind her. On the gangway, the atmosphere was starkly different from the hushed luxury of the suite. The fluorescent lights buzzed. The embarkation agent, Jason, who had boarded her just minutes before, looked horrified. Dr. Banks? What happened? That's what I'd like to know, Officer, Jordan said, turning to the two policemen, Officers Miller and Garcia. I was in my assigned Suite 1A when another passenger, Karen Sterling, claimed it was hers. Your ship crew, Linda and Simon, refused to verify my ticket against the manifest. Deferred to the louder passenger, and when I refused to be illegally downgraded, they ejected me. Officer Miller, the senior of the two, sighed. This was a civil matter, a customer service nightmare, not a police one. Ma'am, the ship crew has the right to remove any passenger for any reason. Our hands are tied. They've closed the door. Our job is just to keep the peace here at the gate. I see, Jordan said. The ship's engines began to whine, sound vibrating through the metal floor of the gangway. It was beginning to push back, casting off lines. Jason, Jordan said, turning to the embarkation agent. Her voice was still calm, but it had an edge that made the young man stand up straighter. I need you to get your station manager now. Ma'am, the ship is gone, Jason began. It is not gone, Jordan said. It is still on port property. Get your manager. And Officer Miller, I appreciate your position. However, I was just assaulted by Ms. Sterling. She put her hands on my property and then defamed me by claiming I threatened her, leading to my removal. I am filing a formal report. Officer Miller's eyebrows went up. Assault. Yes. And your ship crew are witnesses, as is the entire suite section. The officer looked at his partner. This was getting complicated, but Jordan was not finished. She pulled out her phone. The engines outside were roaring now. The massive ship's turbines were spinning up. She pressed a single number on her speed dial. Marcus, she said, her voice cutting through the noise. The man on the other end. Marcus Thorne, CEO of Oceanic Pinnacle Cruise Line, picked up on the first ring. Jordan, are you at sea? I was just looking at the final figures. This deal is going to save us. No, Marcus, I am not at sea, Jordan said, her voice flat and cold. I am standing on the gangway at Gate B-24, Port of Miami. I have just been ejected from Voyage 212. The silence on the other end of the line was absolute. What? Marcus finally choked out. What did you say? Ejected? Is this a joke? I'm looking at your ship, Marcus. It is pulling away from the dock. I was in my ticketed suite 1A. A woman named Karen Sterling stole it. Your crew, Linda and Simon, sided with her, accused me of being a threat when I refused to be downgraded to a standard stateroom and had me removed by police. This woman, who, I might add, made several racially charged remarks, is now sitting in one as sipping champagne. I, on the other hand, am on a gangway. My God, Marcus whispered. My God, Jordan. Marcus, Jordan interrupted, her voice hardening into the steel he knew from their negotiations. You have 30 seconds to stop that ship. If it fully leaves the port, the $9 billion acquisition of your cruise line is dead. My team will liquidate our existing shares by morning, and I will personally file a federal discrimination lawsuit against Oceanic Pinnacle that will dwarf any operational losses you are currently facing. Ground the ship? Now, ground it. Jordan, they're already leaving. I can't just... You are the chief executive officer, Marcus. You will find a way. You are being tested and you are failing. Ground the ship. She hung up. Officer Miller. Jason and Officer Garcia were staring at her, their mouths agape, on the bridge of GS-212, now moving toward the open ocean. Captain Miller's voice came over the PA. Folks, this is Captain Miller up top. Well, this is a new one. We've just been issued a complete ground stop by our own operations center. They are ordering us to return to the dock. We have no further information at this time. Crew, please prepare for arrival. A collective groan filled the ship. In Suite 1A, Karen Sterling was incandescent with rage. Return to the gate. Are you kidding me? This is because of that woman. This is unbelievable. I'm going to have everyone's job for this. The ship, which had been lumbering toward the open sea, slowly stopped and began the long, ignominious process of being towed back to Gate B-24. Back on the gangway, Jordan's phone buzzed. It was Marcus. It's done, he said, his voice shaking with fury and adrenaline. They're returning to the gate. The station manager, Mr. Henderson, is sprinting to you as we speak. Jordan? I am. I don't have words. Get 'em, Marcus, Jordan said. The price of your cruise line just went down by 20%. And I want that crew and that passenger waiting for me at the gate. The gangway slowly reattached to the ship with a heavy thump. The ship door opened, but this time no one was getting off, and Dr. Jordan Banks was not getting on. She was waiting. The scene at Gate B-24 was now one of controlled pandemonium. Passengers from the canceled voyage were flooding the area, their faces a mixture of confusion and anger. But the eye of the storm was a small, quiet circle on the gangway. Just outside the ship door, Dr. Jordan Banks stood, arms crossed, her leather satchel at her feet. Opposite her stood Manager Simon and suite attendant Linda. Their faces, which had been smug and dismissive just 20 minutes prior, were now sheet white. They had been ordered off the ship by the captain, who had received a direct, non-negotiable order from the CEO's office. A portly man in an expensive but rumpled suit, his station manager badge flapping, ran up the gangway, panting. "Dr. Banks, Dr. Jordan Banks," he gasped, his eyes wide with terror. He had just gotten off the phone with Marcus Thorne. A call he would later describe to his wife as the worst 10 minutes of his life. "I am Mr. Henderson," he wheezed. "On behalf of Oceanic Pinnacle, I cannot apologize enough." Jordan held up a hand, silencing him. "Mr. Henderson, your apology is noted and, for the moment, irrelevant. Your primary concern is the catastrophic failure of your staff." She turned her gaze to Linda, who was visibly trembling. "Linda," Jordan said, her voice devoid of heat, which was somehow more terrifying. "When you saw a seating duplication, what is the correct procedure?" Linda stammered. "We checked the manifest at the time of booking." "Eh? Did you do that?" Jordan asked. "No, but Ms. Sterling, she was. She was so ... She was loud." Jordan finished for her. "So company policy is now dictated by volume. Interesting. And when she made a pejorative, racially motivated comment suggesting I belonged in economy. What was your training?" I didn't hear that." Linda lied weakly. "You were standing right there," Jordan countered, her voice sharp as a diamond. "You heard it and you chose to ignore it. You chose to placate the aggressor and punish the victim. You then, Simon," she said, shifting her gaze, escalated the situation. "You accused me of being non-compliant and delaying the voyage when I was in fact the ticketed passenger attempting to claim her seat." "The passenger. Ms. Sterling claimed you threatened her," Simon said, "trying to find some purchase of self-defense. She claimed that after she put her hands on my bag, an act of assault which you also ignored," Jordan said. "You did not de-escalate. You did not investigate. You did not at any point do your job. You saw a black woman in a simple outfit and you saw a loud white woman in designer logos, and you made a choice. You chose poorly." The full crushing weight of their mistake was landing on them. This was not an angry passenger they could buy off with a voucher. This was someone who spoke their language, the language of policy, procedure, and liability. "Mr. Henderson," Jordan continued, "your crew is untrained, racially biased, and a clear and present danger to the safety of your passengers. They created a conflict where none existed." "Dr. Banks, they are two of our senior staff," Henderson began. "And that is what concerns me most," Jordan said. "This isn't an aberration. This is the culture. Now, where is Ms. Sterling?" As if on cue, Karen Sterling stormed up the gangway from the ship, her face a mask of purple rage. She had been forced to wait while the crew was called off, and she was done. "What is the meaning of this?" she shrieked, marching right up to Mr. Henderson. "I am a Platinum Founder member. I was assaulted by this woman, and now I'm being inconvenienced. My voyage is grounded. I demand compensation. I demand a private car. I demand ... She stopped, suddenly realizing the tableau before her. The terrified crew, the high-ranking manager, the two police officers, and Jordan standing in the center of it all, perfectly, terrifyingly calm. "Ms. Sterling," Jordan said, her voice soft. Karen's rant died in her throat. "I believe you have something that belongs to me," Jordan said. "My suite?" A flicker of uncertainty finally crossed Karen's face. She looked at Henderson, expecting him to back her up. Are you going to let her speak to me like that? I'm the victim here. Mr. Henderson looked at Karen Sterling, the customer he had been trained his entire career to placate. Then he looked at Dr. Jordan Banks, the woman who had grounded his ship with a single phone call. Ms. Sterling, Henderson said, his voice shaking. Dr. Banks is. She is. She is a partner, a very significant partner of this cruise line. I'm a partner too, Karen scoffed. A platinum ... No, you don't understand, Henderson said, his composure cracking. Dr. Banks is. She is Marcus Thorne's boss. This was not factually accurate. Not yet, but in that moment it was the only truth that mattered. The color drained from Karen Sterling's face. The blue eyeshadow suddenly looked garish, her pink tracksuit cheap. What? What did you say? Karen whispered. Jordan stepped forward, picking up her leather satchel. What he means, Ms. Sterling, is that Banks Apex Logistics, my company, is in the final stage of a majority acquisition of Oceanic Pinnacle. I was flying to London to sign the final papers. But I find I have some preliminary work to do right here. She looked at the assembled, dumbstruck group. Gangway, she announced, is now a boardroom, and the first item on the agenda is consequences. The full weight of the revelation settled on the gangway. It was no longer a dispute between passengers. It was an audit, a trial, and a sentencing. All delivered by the woman they had tried to banish to economy. Karen Sterling's mind was scrambling, trying to process the new reality. That's impossible. You're lying. Jordan simply smiled. It was not a kind smile. My company's SEC filings are public, Ms. Sterling, though I suspect they're not on your regular reading list. Marcus Thorne and I have been in negotiations for 8 months. My firm is absorbing this line's $4.8 billion in debt in exchange for a 51% controlling interest. In effect, as of this morning, I am Oceanic Pinnacle Cruise Line. She turned to the crew. Linda, the suite attendant, began to cry, silent, terrified tears. Simon, the manager, just stared at the floor, his face the color of spoiled milk. You two, Jordan said, are terminated, effective immediately. You can't do that, Simon blurted out, a last gasp of defiance. We have a union. You have to follow procedure. I am all about procedure. Simon, Jordan said, her voice slicing through his panic. And the procedure for gross misconduct, endangerment of a passenger, and violation of federal anti-discrimination statutes is immediate, indefinite suspension pending termination, which I assure you will be final by the time your union rep finishes his coffee. You will be escorted from the port. You will not work on another cruise line, not a reputable one anyway, for the rest of your careers. Your names will be on a prohibited list for all partner lines, not as passengers, but as liabilities. She looked at Mr. Henderson, the station manager. Mr. Henderson, you will oversee this. You will also personally rebook every single passenger on this canceled voyage. You will use our partner lines, and you will not charge a single one of them a penny. You will issue full refunds and 10,000 miles worth of vouchers to every passenger except one. Her gaze finally, irrevocably landed on Karen Sterling. Karen, for her part, had transitioned from denial to a fawning, desperate panic. Dr. Banks, I had no idea. It was a misunderstanding. A silly, silly misunderstanding. That attendant, Linda, she's so incompetent. She told me it was my suite. I'm so sorry. I'm a businesswoman too. I understand. You know how it is. Cherie tried to laugh. It died in her throat. A misunderstanding, Jordan repeated. Was it a misunderstanding when you called me dear and honey? Was it a misunderstanding when you suggested I belonged in economy? Was it a misunderstanding when you shoved my property and then lied, claiming I threatened you? No, Miss Sterling, that was not a misunderstanding. That was a choice. That was prejudice, pure and simple. You saw me and you assumed I was less than you. You assumed I was powerless. No, I wasn't. I was just ... You were just what? Being yourself. Jordan stepped closer. You see, you and I are businesswomen, as you say, but we are not the same. You build your power by shouting, by demeaning, by leveraging a status you didn't even earn. I checked. Your founder's circle status is an add-on from your husband's corporate account. Karen gasped as if Jordan had read her private diary. My power, Jordan continued, is not in my voice or my status number. It's in my results. My power is in my name, a name you didn't even bother to ask for. My power is in the fact that this entire multi-billion-dollar ship and the company that owns it will not move one more inch without my express permission. She turned to Officer Miller, who had been watching the entire exchange with a look of profound, dawning respect. Officer Jordan said, her voice now back to a polite, professional tone. As I stated earlier, this woman assaulted me. She put her hands on my bag in a threatening manner. I wish to press charges. Kieran Sterling's world, which had been teetering, finally shattered. Charges. She shrieked. You can't. It was just... I just tapped it. It was a tap. Officer, this is ridiculous. Officer Miller stepped forward, his hand moving toward his cuffs. Ma'am, you've heard the complaint. Dr. Banks has a right to file. And frankly, we have multiple witnesses who saw you escalate this confrontation. You also lied to a ship crew about a security threat, which is a federal offense. You'll need to come with us. No, this is assault. I'm the victim. Richard. She screamed as if her husband could save her. Richard, you tell her I'm Platinum Elite. Ma'am, Officer Garcia said, taking her arm. Please put your hands behind your back. The sheer, undiluted panic in Karen's eyes was a stark contrast to the smug entitlement of half an hour ago. As the officer clicked the handcuffs on her wrists, the sound was sharp and final in the enclosed space of the gangway. You're ruining me, she sobbed, all pretense of power gone. My life is over. This is a mistake. You can't do this. You did this, Miss Sterling, Jordan said quietly as the officers led her away. You built this moment piece by piece. Karen was escorted down the gangway, past the gate and through the terminal, a sobbing, undignified mess in a logo-covered tracksuit, her hands cuffed behind her back. The woman who demanded respect from everyone had earned the contempt of all. The gangway was quiet again, save for the muffled sobs of Linda and the heavy breathing of Simon. Mr. Henderson stood paralyzed, awaiting his own fate. Jordan looked at him. Mr. Henderson, I want a full diagnostic on every employee at this station. I want to see your training manuals, your bias reporting procedures, and your de-escalation protocols. I want them on my desk by Monday. My desk, he stammered. Yes, you'll be reporting to my coup, Mr. Cole. For now, your job is to clean up this mess. Get those passengers rebooked. Yes, Dr. Banks. Right away, Dr. Banks. He practically ran from the gangway, a man given a last-minute reprieve from the gallows. Jordan turned to the two disgraced crew members. You two get your things. Go. Linda and Simon scurried past her, defeated, not even making eye contact. Their careers were over. The report Jordan would file, combined with the internal investigation, would ensure they never served on a major carrier again. Jordan stood alone on the gangway for a moment. She looked into the empty suite deck corridor of the ship. Suite 1A sat empty, the leather seat still slightly crumpled from where Karen Sterling had sat. She had one, but the victory felt hollow. It was 2025. And she still had to ground an entire ship to be treated with the basic dignity afforded to any other passenger. She had to, in effect, prove she owned the place just to be allowed to sit in her assigned seat. Her phone buzzed again. It was Marcus Thorne. Jordan, my jet is on the tarmac. I'm flying to Miami myself. I'll be there in 20 minutes. We need to talk. No, Marcus, Jordan said, weariness finally creeping into her voice. We don't. The talking is done. I'm handling it. The London signing is postponed. I have a company to fix. Your company. Our company. What? What about the deal? He asked, his voice small. The deal is still on, Jordan said. But as I told you, the terms have changed. The price is down 20%. My firm will now be acquiring a 60% stake, not 51%. The board will be restructured. I will be chairman. You will report to me. This is non-negotiable. 60%. Jordan, that's extortion. Oh, Marcus, it's a discount. It's the price you pay for letting a rot like this grow in your company. It's the price for a culture that allows a platinum status. Bully to racially profile another passenger and have your crew back her up. You didn't just fail me. You failed your shareholders by exposing them to this kind of liability. I'm saving you, and it's going to cost you. There was a long pause. Marcus Thorne, one of the old guard titans of aviation and maritime, knew he was beaten. He had been outmaneuvered, and the irony was his own employees had handed Jordan the weapon.
Understood.
Madame Chairman, he said finally, I'll see you at the emergency board meeting Monday. Jordan said and hung up. She turned and walked calmly off the gangway past the chaotic gate, where Mr. Henderson was frantically rebooking angry passengers. She walked through the terminal, her leather satchel in hand, Queen leaving a battlefield she had never asked to fight on, but had decisively won. The news hit the wires within hours. Oceanic Pinnacle Voyage 212 canceled in bizarre gate incident. Authorities investigating, but the real story was known only to a few in Suite 1A. Karen Sterling, now in a holding cell, was learning a hard lesson about arrogance. She would later be charged with interfering with a ship crew and simple assault, a federal charge that would follow her for life. Linda and Simon would become cautionary tales in staff break rooms. And Jordan Banks, she didn't sail to London. She didn't need to. She had her own private jet. She'd only taken the commercial voyage to stay close to the customer experience as she boarded her own jet. The pilot, a man who had worked for her for a decade, greeted her. Dr. Banks, rough day at the office. Jordan allowed herself a small, tired smile. You could say that, Captain, but I believe we've just completed a very successful, if hostile, takeover. 1 week later, the main boardroom at Oceanic Pinnacle headquarters was silent. The long, polished mahogany table reflected the grim faces of the old guard. The board members who had known Marcus Thorne for decades, they had all read the internal report. They had all seen the security footage from the gate. They had all watched the stock price dip 12% before Jordan's firm injected emergency capital, stabilizing it. The doors opened. Marcus Thorne, looking 10 years older, walked in. Ladies, gentlemen, please welcome the new chairman of Oceanic Pinnacle Cruise Line, Dr. Jordan Banks. Jordan walked in. She was not dressed in the understated blazer of the port. Today, she wore a striking royal blue dress that commanded the room. Her locks were down, framing her face. She took the seat at the head of the table. Good morning, she said, her voice filling the room. I'm sure you've all read the incident report. I'm sure you all have feelings about the change in leadership. Let me be clear. This is not just a change in ownership. It is a change in philosophy. She looked around the table. For years, Oceanic Pinnacle has operated on a broken system. A system that values status over safety and comfort over character. A system that allowed 2 senior crew members to believe it was acceptable to eject a ticketed passenger based on the color of her skin and the volume of her antagonist, a board member. Arthur Banks cleared his throat. Dr. Banks, with all due respect, that was an isolated incident. A terrible misunderstanding. Jordan's gaze locked onto him. Mr. Banks, my firm's audit in the last 5 days has uncovered 4,812 complaints of a similar nature in the last 24 months. Complaints of bias, of crews siding with aggressive passengers, of non-white passengers being involuntarily reseated at a rate 400% higher than white passengers. It was not an isolated incident. It was standard operating procedure. The only thing that was isolated was that this time they did it to me. The room was tomb silent. My first act as chairman, Jordan continued, is the Ascend Initiative. We are grounding the entire Oceanic Pinnacle fleet for 72 hours worldwide. The board gasped. That will cost billions, Marcus protested. It will cost less than the lawsuits that are coming if we don't fix this, Jordan retorted. For 72 hours, every single customer-facing employee, from gate agents to pilots, will undergo a mandatory 18-hour retraining program in de-escalation, implicit bias, and procedural compliance. The program is already designed. My team from Banks Apex Logistics is implementing it starting tomorrow. She let that sink in. Second, the tiered status system is being overhauled. From now on, status will not allow any passenger to violate the code of conduct. Any passenger who verbally abuses another or a crew member will have their status revoked permanently. Any employee who fails to report or de-escalate such an incident will be terminated permanently. We will be the safest, most respectful cruise line in the sky and sea, not the one with the most Founders Circle members. She looked at Marcus Thorne. Marcus will be staying on as president, overseeing the transition. It was a clear public demotion. He was her subordinate. She stood up. The days of Oceanic Pinnacle being a country club in the sky are over. We are a global logistics and transportation company. We will operate with precision, integrity, and respect for everyone, or we won't operate at all. Thank you for your time. Get to work. She walked out of the boardroom, leaving a stunned, silent group of executives in her wake. The news of the 72-hour grounding hit the financial world like a thunderclap. But a funny thing happened. After the initial shock, the approval ratings for the line, driven by social media praising the bold move, began to climb. As for Karen Sterling, she pled guilty to interfering with the crew. Her husband's company, facing public backlash, dropped its corporate account with Oceanic Pinnacle. But Jordan's team had already replaced that revenue tenfold with new, more loyal partners. Karen's real-life karma was a criminal record. A lifetime ban from the line and a humiliating permanent spot on Google searches as the woman who tried to bully a CEO and grounded a voyage in the process. Jordan. Banks sat in her new office overlooking the port. She had never made it to London, but she hadn't needed to. She had closed the biggest deal of her life, not in a boardroom, but on a cold, fluorescent-lit gangway. And as she watched an Oceanic Pinnacle ship, freshly retrained and rebranded, lift gracefully into the open sea, she knew it was flying at a new and better altitude. The 72-hour grounding of Oceanic Pinnacle Cruise Line was not a tremor. It was an earthquake. It was the lead story on every major financial and news network in the world. A catastrophic, unprecedented move by new chairman Jordan Banks. One analyst on CNBC declared his face grave. Grounding an entire fleet over a customer service dispute. This is corporate suicide. We're talking an estimated $1.5 billion in lost revenue, not to mention the operational chaos. The board must be insane. I disagree, Kevin. Another commentator countered on a rival network. It's the boldest move in maritime history. Dr. Banks didn't just fire two employees. She's firing the entire culture. Social media is calling her the grounder. Public approval is through the roof. People are sick of being treated like cattle by companies. This isn't a dispute. It's a revolution. The world watched, holding its breath. The stock, after the initial 12% plunge, had wobbled, then held, then began to climb. It seemed that for every furious, status-obsessed Founders Circle member who posted a vitriolic opt, there were 10,000 ordinary travelers who finally felt heard. Inside the cavernous Oceanic Pinnacle training hangar at the Port of Miami, one of 20 such locations running simultaneously worldwide. The Ascend initiative was in full brutal swing. This was not a fluffy, feel-good seminar with trust falls. It was a legal and operational boot camp run by the most ruthless efficiency experts from Jordan's own firm, Banks Apex Logistics. Let's review the Voyage 212 incident. The trainer, a sharp man named Mr. Cole, said to a room of 300 stony-faced senior stewards. He clicked a slide. Situation, seating, duplication. Passenger A, Sterling, is aggressive, loud, and in the wrong suite. Passenger B, Banks, is calm, polite, and in the correct ticketed suite. Passenger A makes racially charged statements. He pointed to a veteran attendant in the front row. Johnson, you have 30 seconds. What's the protocol? You try to placate passenger A, Johnson said, falling back on old habits. You offer passenger B a voucher and receipt them too, to keep the peace and get the ship out on time. Wrong, Mr. Cole snapped, the word echoing in the hangar. That's the old way. That old way just cost this company $1.5 billion and got 2 of your colleagues, Simon and Linda, permanently blacklisted from the industry. Let's try again. He clicked to the next slide. It showed the legal ramifications. The new way, the Oceanic Pinnacle way, is simple. You follow the manifest. The ticket is the contract. Period. You de-escalate the aggressor. You do not punish the victim. The second passenger, A, made a biased remark. She was in violation of the passenger conduct code. She should have been the one met by police at the gates, not passenger B. Your job is not to be nice. Your job is to enforce federal maritime law, which includes protecting all passengers from harassment. He let the words hang. The room was cold. This was not about feelings. It was about procedure. The culture was being rewritten, not with requests, but with new ironclad rules. Jordan wasn't just training them to be better. She was training them to be liabilities if they weren't. Meanwhile, Marcus Thorne sat in his office, which now felt conspicuously large for his new diminished role as president. He was watching the stock ticker, his stomach in knots. His phone rang. It was the chairman, Marcus. Jordan's voice came in clear. She wasn't calling from the executive tower. The background noise was the same as the training hangar. The Dallas and London centers are online. The new protocol software is fully integrated. How is the rebooking team handling the backlog? Jordan, Madame Chairman, he corrected himself. It's a deluge. But the new system is working. We've rebooked 90% of affected passengers. The financial hole, though, it's deep. It's an investment, Marcus, she said, her voice impatient. Stop looking at the cost and look at the price. The price of the old way was a multi-billion-dollar discrimination lawsuit that would have bankrupted you. The cost of the new way is a 72-hour reset. We will make it back in the fourth quarter. The market is already responding. Our forward bookings are up 18%. Up. Marcus said, stunned. But we just canceled every voyage. We didn't just cancel voyages, Jordan said. We made a promise. We promised that an Oceanic Pinnacle ticket now means something more than just a status. It means safety. It means respect. Now I have to observe the captain's compliance brief. Keep the numbers coming. She hung up. Marcus stared at the phone. She was everywhere at once. She wasn't just directing. She was on the ground auditing, observing, implementing. She was treating the cruise line like one of her broken logistics chains. And for the first time in a decade, Marcus felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Across town. In a sleek, glass-walled law office, the atmosphere was considerably more bleak. Karen Sterling and her husband Richard sat opposite their lawyer, a high-priced man named Attorney Fletcher. Karen had been crying, her expensive makeup a smudged, tragic mask. I just don't understand, Richard Sterling blustered, his face red. It's a misunderstanding. You're Attorney Fletcher. You're supposed to fix this. Make it go away. Fletcher leaned back in his chair, slowly removing his glasses. He looked at the Sterlings not as clients, but as a problem he couldn't solve. Richard, you don't seem to grasp the severity of the situation, Fletcher said, his voice flat. This isn't a state charge. This is the United States Attorney's Office. They're charging Karen with interference with a ship crew, a federal felony. The simple assault charge on Dr. Banks is secondary, but it establishes a pattern of aggression. But it's my word against hers, Karen wailed. Karen, it isn't. Fletcher sighed, opening a laptop. It's your word against your video. He pressed play. The video Karen had taken herself, the one where she smugly filmed Jordan being escorted off the ship, filled the screen. And in it, the audio was crystal clear. Her voice. "This is what happens when you don't know your place, sweetie." And before that, Manager Simon's voice. "Ma'am, we have to ask you to disembark." And Jordan's clear, calm voice. "I am in my ticketed suite. This woman has assaulted me." "You filmed yourself," Fletcher said, "while a crew member acting on your false claim of a threat was actively removing a non-compliant passenger. You documented your own crime." The U.S. attorney. "Well, he loves it. He says it's the easiest case he'll have all year." Richard's face drained of color. "So, what's the deal?" "The deal is this. They will not drop the charges. They are making an example of you. If you plead not guilty and go to trial, they will seek the maximum sentence, which is up to 20 years in federal prison. If you plead guilty, they are recommending 3 years probation, a $250,000 fine, and a permanent lifetime ban from all 12 domestic and international carriers. You will be on the federal no-fly, no-sail list forever." "Forever," Karen whispered. The word seemed to hit her harder than prison. "Forever," Fletcher confirmed. "But that's not your biggest problem." He slid a file across the table. "This is a civil suit filed this morning. It's a class action suit filed by the 340 other passengers on Voyage. 212 for intentional infliction of emotional distress and financial damages. They are suing you personally. They claim your actions, your false report, and your aggressive behavior directly led to the Voyage's cancellation and their subsequent losses. They're seeking $10 million. Richard Sterling looked like he was going to be sick. "And finally," Fletcher said, twisting the knife, "your Founder's Circle status. It's been revoked. Your husband's corporate account with Oceanic Pinnacle terminated for conduct violation. My sources tell me the ripple effect has already begun. The board of your husband's company, Richard. They're calling an emergency meeting this afternoon to discuss the reputational damage of this incident. They're talking about his leadership." Karen finally understood. The karma wasn't just a fine or a slap on the wrist. Jordan Banks hadn't just taken her voyage. She had taken everything. Her status, her power, her reputation, her husband's career. All of it gone. All because she couldn't stand to see a black woman in Suite 1A. 3 weeks later, Oceanic Pinnacle's London voyage was boarding at Gate B24. The 72-hour grounding was a memory. But the ascend protocols were in bright digital displays at every gate. Dr. Jordan Banks, dressed in her simple travel attire, stood back, watching. A passenger, a man in a loud designer shirt, cut the line and slammed his platinum card on the counter. "I'm Mr. Peterson, I'm late. My bag is overweight, but you're just going to check it. I'm platinum. Just do it." The new gate agent, a young woman named Emily, didn't flinch. She looked at him with a polite, firm smile. "Good afternoon, Mr. Peterson," she said, her voice perfectly calm and audible. "I can see you're in a hurry. However, our policy for overweight baggage applies to all passengers regardless of status. You can either pay the $150 fee or you can repack your items here. Do you know who I am?" He sputtered, turning red. "I'll have your job." Emily's smile didn't waver. "Sir, I understand your frustration, but my job is to ensure the safety and fairness of this voyage for all 300 passengers, which I am doing. Please make your choice or I will be forced to rebook you on the next voyage so we can depart on time." Mr. Peterson stared, dumbfounded. He was used to this threat working. He looked around for an ally, but the other passengers were watching, some even nodding in approval. Defeated, he snarled. "Fine, charge the stupid fee." He paid, snatched his receipt, and stomped down the gangway. Jordan watched, a small, satisfied smile touching her lips. It was working. She was the last aboard as usual. She walked into the suite deck corridor. Jessica, the new head suite attendant, greeted her. "Good afternoon, Dr. Banks," Jessica said, her voice professional and warm. "Welcome aboard. We have your preferred sparkling water and the prospectus you requested at your suite. We're scheduled for an on-time departure." Jordan nodded. "Thank you, Jessica." She took her seat in Suite 1A. It was clean, quiet, and waiting for her. She looked out the window as the ship, her ship, pushed back from the dock exactly on time. She opened the hard copy prospectus for the London deal she was finally on her way to sign. The new standard had been set, not just in the sea, but on the ground. And from this new altitude, the view was perfect. And that's what happens when arrogance meets quiet, unshakable power. The passenger thought she was dealing with someone she could push aside. But she was really dealing with the woman who owned the entire ship. This story is a powerful reminder that you should never, ever judge a person by their appearance, because you never know who you're messing with. The ultimate karma isn't just loud. Sometimes it's the quiet click of a phone call that changes everything. What did you think of Karen's instant regret? Was that the best part, or was it when the entire ship was forced to return to the gate? Let me know your favorite part of the story in the comments below. And if you love stories like this, where the entitled get exactly what they deserve, make sure you hit that like button, share this video with a friend, and please subscribe to the channel. We have new stories coming every day, and you don't want to miss it.